Really sorry about this. It wasn't meant to happen, and I don't know how it did happen, but it just did. I was only scheduled to give one talk, then John unfortunately was sick, and Claire unfortunately couldn't attend. So I was supposed to give Claire's talk on Beyond BRCA. And Claire sent me her talk last Saturday, and this is what she just presented in Munich. And I just didn't feel that I could really present that because it's her lab work, what she's been doing, with the aerial tumours, and it really was her data to present, and I really couldn't do justice to it. So I thought, okay, well, I better prepare a talk and give you my perspectives on Beyond BRCA. Now, look, there's many ways you can think about Beyond BRCA, and but I'm going to talk about trying to identify patients with ovarian cancer who may benefit from a PARP inhibitor. Now, obviously, we've heard quite a bit about this already today, and there will obviously be some repetition, but hopefully I'll give you also a slightly different perspective. And so the question is it possible, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on, to identify non-BRCA patients with high-grade serous who are likely to benefit from a PARP inhibitor? And can we identify BRCA patients with high-grade serous who are less likely to benefit from a PARP inhibitor? I'm going to focus specifically in the first part on the companion diagnostics. Now, companion diagnostics are obviously critically important if we are going to be trying to address these questions. So I'm going to look critically at the companion diagnostics that we used in the NOVA and the ARIEL-2 trials, and say, are these ready for clinical application? Forgetting about all the adverts and that's the hype. And are there any others? And I don't know if we'll have any time to talk about some of the resistance mechanisms, but look up. Now, you've seen this 100 times today already, but the bottom line really is there are some patients with wild-type BRCA who have HRD who respond to PARP inhibitors. And we know that maybe about 50% or so of women with high-grade serous cancers do have some deficiency in homologous recombination repair, and how do we identify who these people are? So there are strategies for patient selection. The obvious ones, which we're using in the clinic, are to look at gBRCA and somatic BRCA. Now, what is interesting is that most of the studies looking at somatic BRCA have found about 5% incidence, although interestingly enough, in the NOVA trial, 13% of patients had somatic BRCA. I'm not too sure why. And I'm going to look now at Myriad MyChoice, the HRD score, and then also look at the Foundation Medicine. Now, the Myriad is based on genomic scarring. And the premise is that deficiency in DNA repair, there's a great party going on there, leads to accumulation of genomic damage, point mutations, copy number aberrations, etc., gain or losses of the chromosomal regions, even whole chromosomes. And some tumours which do not have loss of BRCA or BRCA2 exhibit very similar patterns of genomic scarring. And these genomic scars may be DNA repair pathway specific rather than gene specific. And you can have functional loss or mutations in a whole bunch of genes, ATM, ATR, CHEK2, etc., etc., and they can all contribute to accumulation of genomic damage, and therefore these drug response signatures based on genomic scars may be more reliable biomarkers for DNA repair deficiency and could be used to reliably identify patients who may benefit from PARP inhibitors or indeed respond to platinum-based therapy. So, as Jonathan showed you, in the Myriad MyChoice, they look at the number of telomeric allelic imbalances, and look at large-scale transitions and LOH, and come up with the homologous recombination efficiency score. And the assumption, the underlying assumption, is that genomic scarring is proportional to the degree of error-prone DNA repair, which results in the genomic scar. So you get LOH, telomeric allelic imbalance, and large-scale strain transitions. You come up with MyChoice HRD score. And this is now being widely promoted. not only to identify patients for PARP inhibitors, but also for platinum treatment. In contrast, this is the HRD score enriches for niraparib-sensitive high-grade ovarian cancer. And this is what Myriad presented this at ASCO, I think about a year or two ago. And they used the NOVA trial, and you can see that there is this bimodal distribution. There is a cutoff for the HRD score, and you can see that most patients with gBRCA have a high HDR score, but not all, and there's quite a variation, but there's a significant number of patients with wild type who also have a high HRD score, and who then potentially might benefit from a PARP inhibitor. And this indeed is what they looked at in the NOVA study. So clearly, Jonathan has shown this. We've seen that patients with BRCA mutations, very big difference. But when you go and look at the no germline mutations and who have a high score, there's clearly quite a big difference, and the hazard ratio is 0.45. But if you go to the supplementary table and you look at non-BRCA HRD negative, once again, as Jonathan showed, there's a difference. So clearly it could not really discriminate between the two. And in Ariel, they've looked at a totally different approach. This is using the Foundation Medicine, and this is looking at genome-wide loss of heterozygosity. And that's the basis for the Foundation Medicine test. They use a cutoff, as I think Jonathan mentioned, about 14%, and this is in TCGA and AOCS data show that if they had a high genomic score, those patients had a different outcome and a better survival than those who had a low score. And that's where the 14% cutoff came from, and that was then used in Ariel. And once again, in Ariel, we see there's this incredible variety of variation between patients with BRCA, who generally have a high LOH, but some don't, and then there's a significant number of women who have a wild type, but also have LOH. So if you look using that testing in Ariel 2, you can see that about 25% of patients who had BRCA had a high LOH score, about 42% of the BRCA-like, and then there was about 1/3, in fact, who were LOH low. So you look at the Ariel 2 results, you can see there's a significant cutoff with the BRCA population, but really less so with the LOH high and LOH low. So not that impressive, and certainly there did appear to be a longer duration of response, however, in the group. There's a very big difference in the response rates. So the BRCA mutant, you've got about an 80% response rate, whereas you had BRCA wild type and LOH high, so this is the group that's supposed to do better, the response rate was significantly lower, 29%. So I think there's a problem with the assay. And the editorial in the New England, I think, actually said it all. And there were two quick questions. First of all, are these results clinically relevant? And two, is the assay efficient enough to identify patients without BRCA mutations who will respond to rucaparib? And the editorial said no, and these really are not ready for clinical use. None, or certainly not, I think, sufficient to identify patients who should be treated, I think, at the moment with PARP inhibitors. And it may well be that the cutoff was wrong, and if in a planned post-hoc analysis, the LOH score, the 16% cutoff, did look a bit better, and that's what's going to be used in Ariel 3, and we'll see. But at the moment, the assay is really not ready for prime time and some way off. So are there any other better ways of looking at response to PARP inhibitors? So this has been an enormous area of activity. And people have been looking at functional approaches to detect HR, looking at RAD51 foci in response to double-stranded breaks. There are other functional assays of repair capacity. There's transcriptomic signatures, there are mutational signatures, but they all suffer from exactly the same problem as the Myriad and the Foundation Medicine, and they're nowhere near as far. So I think in terms of predicting response, it's a work in progress. There's some really interesting things, however, that are coming through regarding methylation of BRCA and RAD51. And BRCA1 and RAD51 methylation in ovarian cancer is associated with a very high LOH, consistent with the HRD phenotype, and also associated with sensitivity to rucaparib. This is what was found in Ariel. But it's interesting how you lose BRCA1 methylation very early. So you have to do real-time biopsy. So this talks once again to doing a biopsy prior to going on to treatment rather than looking at some historical biopsy, because you lose methylation after exposure to platinum therapy, even in so-called platinum-sensitive patients, and this Fisher has shown this. So she's made the point, and obviously it's hard to disagree, that methylation should be assessed in a pre-treatment biopsy, not what happened down the track. Now this is a paper that was published very recently, this is mainly in vitro, but I thought it was particularly interesting. And it looked at cumulative defects in DNA repair pathways that drive response to PARP inhibitors in high-grade serous cell lines. And essentially they showed that the best responses on greater sensitivity is when you had both BRCA, and this was combined with either loss of nuclear excision repair or mismatch repair deficiency. And when they were both down-regulated, they had a much higher response. And I raised the question, if the extreme responders that we see with olaparib, could they have both BRCA and down-regulation of nuclear excision repair, or also combined with mismatch repair deficiency? Because you do see MMR deficiency in these tumours. So this was just a recent paper that was published. It was all in vitro, so I don't know how it will pan out, but I just thought it was interesting. So the big questions beyond BRCA are, within the group of women with somatic or germline mutations, some have a very poor outcome, and there are no validated markers of treatment outcome in this group. So there may be a relationship between whole exome mutation burden in the tumour to treatment outcome in BRCA1 and BRCA2 patients. And this is just some data that was published a couple of years ago that showed that the total number of exome mutations was correlated with clinical outcome in patients with BRCA1 and or 2 tumours. And there's a very big variation of these exome mutations, varying from 9 to 210, with a mean of 54.5, showing really quite a big split. So I think it just talks to looking at more than just BRCA1 and 2, or beyond BRCA1 and 2, and looking at other things. And this may be one thing that is really, and I'm not going to talk about resistance because I think I don't have time. So it's still a long way to go with respect to companion diagnostics beyond BRCA testing. And I think at the moment, gBRCA and somatic BRCA remain the mainstay to select patients. And I will just finally say, in terms of somatic BRCA, I think the Ariel 2 also showed very convincingly that somatic BRCA had exactly the same response, duration of response, PFS, as gBRCA. So hopefully that will also be included, well, I don't think in Australia, but certainly the rest of the world, as the criteria to select PARP inhibitors. And I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.